The Alterac Mountains, or known as the Mountains of Alterac, are a range of towering snow-capped mountains in central Lordaeron. The slopes of the Alterac Mountains were once home to the human Alterachi tribe, who became part of the Empire of Arator after their leader Igneous was bested in a duel by King Thoradin. During the Troll Wars, generals of Arator established the stronghold of Alterac Fortress at the base of the mountains, and the final and most decisive battle between the Amanite Empire and the combined human and High Elven armies took place at the foot of the mountains. As Arator began fracturing in the centuries after the Troll Wars, the city-state of Alterac was established among the peaks and came to hold dominion over much of the Northlands. During the First War, the exiled Frostwolf clan of orcs arrived from Azeroth to the Alterac Mountains and established their new home deep in the Alterac Valley. During the early days of the Second War, the High Elves of Quel'Thalas sent a contingent of archers south to survey the supposed orcish threat for themselves. Shortly after passing through the Alterac Mountains, the elves were ambushed by Horde troops and brought to a prison camp near Tyranny Mill. Sometime later, the treachery of the humans of Alterac was revealed by the Alliance of Lordaeron, and an army was sent to the Alterac Mountains to strike the traitors at their heart. An Alterachi prison camp was also situated near Alterac City, containing captured Dalaranian citizens. After the end of the war, military outposts maintained by Lordaeron and Strahnbrad were built along the borders of the mountains. The question of what to do with the mountains led to heated debates within the Alliance. These military outposts were later raided by the Horde of Draenor in order to get the Book of Medivh back from the Alterachi. At some point, Lordaeron at least partially annexed the Alterac Mountains. At the onset of the Third War, Arthas Menethil traveled the King's Road towards Strahnbrad, and its inhabitants considered him their lord, with their citizens also taking up arms for Lordaeron. A new resistance against them had appeared, however, in the form of the Syndicate, led by former Alterachi prince Adlan Perenhold, after he rose up in the Durnhold military under the teachings of his new mentor, Adelas Blackmore. At some point, the mountains were invaded by gnolls. The Dwarven Mountain King, Mergen Hammerfell, used his abilities to decimate the gnolls. Kobolds also infested the deep tunnels of the mountains. The Alterac Mountains were home to a large portion of the demon-worshipping Orcish Blackrock clan and its allies. Though they regrouped after the Alliance's retribution for their attack on Strahnbrad, they were thoroughly defeated by the Scourge on its march to Dalaran. Other inhabitants included gnolls, the human Blood Hill bandits, murlocs, and ice trolls. After the fall of Quel'Thalas, the Scourge led by archers returned and amassed at Alterac Mountains, setting out to wipe out the Blackrock clan villages when Kel'Thuzad communicated with Archimonde through their Demon Gate. Here, the orcs still controlled the Red Dragons and were allied with ogres, forest trolls, and goblins. Kel'Thuzad opened a portal for the Burning Legion near Dalaran. After Archimonde was summoned, he summoned a spell that destroyed the City of Mages. After the Third War, the area near Dalaran was a battlefield between the Night Elves, Blood Elves, Scourge, and Illidan's Naga. Illidan later used Kel'Thuzad's Rift to open a portal to Outland. The Barony of Mordis is located somewhere in the mountains. It was ruled by Valimar Mordis until the Scourge invaded and destroyed it. The undead were led by the Ghoul Iker, who wanted to use the Orb of Ner'zhul to raise dead beasts in the area, including frostworms and behemoths. In the years that followed, the ruins of the city of Alterac were claimed by the ogres of the Crushridge clan, led by warlord Mugtol. What little alliance activity was left in the region was centered around the entrance to Alterac Valley, where the Dwarven Stormpike Guard and the Orcish Frostwolf clan vie for supremacy. The Syndicate also have control in the area. Dorgar Stormbrew, a warrior of the Scarlet Crusade and Lord of the Red Caverns, was last seen in the Alterac Mountains. In a weird, timely-wimey parallel thing, Brave Stonetorch was sent to the Alterac Mountains in search of a shard of pure light. The Tauren thought of it as a tear from Anshi, and after finding it, Stonetorch understood that he needed to serve the light. During the Cataclysm, the area remained surprisingly mostly unchanged. Its fingers, originally controlled by the Syndicate, turned into Alliance camps and were sabotaged by the Forsaken. During the Fourth War, the Horde claimed the ruins of Alterac and Strahnbrad, fortifying them as defensible base for their operations in Lordaeron, and to fight the Alliance forces from the Western Plaguelands. Geography-wise, the Alterac Mountains are high peaks rising up north of the Hillsbrad foothills and spreading to the border of the Western Plaguelands in the north and the Hinterlands in the east. Covered with snow at their highest point, these mountains were once the location of some major human settlements. Now, these settlements lie in ruins and are controlled by hostile forces. The mountains themselves are home to several kinds of high-altitude flora and fauna, such as yeti and mountain lions. The rare herb white winter's bite was found here. The mountains are surrounded by green lands, having the Lordemere Lake and the Daran crater to the west, Chillwind Point to the east, and the forsaken settlement of Tarren Mill and the sludge fields to the south, if you can consider it poison green in this case. The farmlands of the Kingdom of Alterac were located in the uplands. And now we'll go with the RPG because you know me, I love the RPG. The Alterac Mountains have traditionally been a home for the humans of Daran and Alterac, members of the Alliance of Lordaeron. The settlements were all bases of peaceful activity and were in the beginning at peace with each other. Once inhabited by noble humans, Alterac is a shattered realm struggling to survive the war's carnage. An organization called the Syndicate is strong in this region. They are a group of thieves who were once Alterac nobles and now seek to reclaim their lands, and any other lands they can lay their hands on, by any means necessary. They battle for control with the huge Crusheridge clan of ogres that has taken over Alterac City. Hostile factions control the few settlements that remain in the mountains. During the Second War, the Horde attempted to conscript some Alliance nobles to help them in their campaign, and the weak-willed nobles of Alterac readily agreed to help the Orcs overthrow the Alliance leaders and take Lordaeron. With the defeat of the Horde came the punishment for these traitors, exile from their former holdings. These exiles would eventually form the Syndicate and take back the Alterac Mountains from the Alliance. Like all of Lordaeron's regions, Alterac suffered horrendously when the Scourge blazed through the continent. The Perenhold family's current scion, Lord Aiden Perenhold, is a high-ranking Syndicate member who resides in the uplands. The Syndicate struggles to regain control of this wild land, while ruins dot the mountainside and the Crusheridge ogres patrol their territory. The Syndicate also kidnapped a wealthy dwarf merchant's son, and they didn't want to ransom him, but help in driving the ogres from Alterac City. Muric Doubletoe, the captured dwarf's father, hired outside help to advise him and either rescue his son or defeat the ogres. The two major factions that control Alterac Mountains are, of course, the Syndicate and the Crusheridge ogres. The Syndicate is a complicated network of bandits who were once Alteracian nobles. These men and women operate mainly in the Alterac Mountains and the surrounding area, but fight, murder, lie, and steal to reclaim their ancient lands. They are out for themselves, though they would work with others if doing so helped them meet its ultimate goal. Syndicate agents dress in brown and black when on prowl, but don their aristocratic finery in their holds. The Crusheridge ogres are cunning, massive, and strong. Of course, cunning as an ogre can be cunning. Leftovers from the Second War, these ogres have thrown off orc rule for their own primitive ways. They live in the Alterac City and kill whatever they can. The ogres and the Syndicate fight a continuous guerrilla war. The Syndicate's private war and the ogres' mindless slaughter are foolishness. Alterac shares its northern border with the Western Plaguelands, so a Scourge invasion is only a matter of time. Such an attack would spur the Syndicate to battle against the undead, and the ogres would fight to stay alive. Their numbers, however, are too few. The Stormpike clan have taken a liking to the Alterac Mountains and defend them fearlessly against the trolls and the orcs invading the area. The Alterac Mountains are not only high and temperate, but also cold and misty. Few fertile valleys lie within the peaks, and those that do are fallow. Rainfall is high and the sky is often overcast with grey clouds, making the region dreary. The Crusheridge ogres and the Syndicate have driven away most native wildlife, but yetis still inhabit the deeper caves. Alterac resembles Loch Modan but warmer. Huge pine trees tower over the landscape, and occasional green meadows and tenacious shrubs can be found amidst the grey, rocky peaks. To the south are the Hillsbrad foothills, east is the Hinterlands, west is Lordemere Lake, and north, well, the Plaguelands. A magic field closes off Dalaran to the southwest. Its wizards patrol the local surroundings, but likewise do not concern themselves with Alterac's affairs. Durnhold Keep sometimes gets labeled as part of the Alterac Mountains and Hillsbrad foothills. It just depends on who's really ruling at that time. The Ice Trolls of the Winterax tribe dwell in the mountains and valleys of Alterac and are hated foes of the Frostwolf clan orcs and the Stormpike and Wildhammer dwarves. Not the best of positions for trolls to be in. And now it's time to look at a few of the more important holdings, if you can say that. And so we'll start with Ravenhold Manor. Ravenhold Manor is the headquarters of the Ravenhold faction. It is the property of Lord Jorah Ravenhold and has its own garden supervised by Simon Cantrell, as well as training grounds domain of Master Kang. Outsiders are not really welcome here, but they are accepted in certain particular cases. Prior to the First War, the area of the manor belonged to the Kingdom of Alterac, hence the orange color of the roof. As a result, years ago, the Syndicate wandered this part of the Highlands. Ravenhold accepted SI7's aid in routing out the Syndicate affliction, housing the base of operations out of Jorah's Ravenhold Manor, or Jorah's Ravenhold Manor. Ravenhold Manor is present in the old Hillsbrad foothills, but is devoid of NPCs and is physically unreachable since the entrance to the tunnel is missing. Rogues involved in the Fangs of the Father questline travel to Ravenhold Manor as part of the long path of obtaining the legendary daggers from Wrathion. I know it doesn't sound that big, but let's look at the ruins of Alterac, or the Alterac ruins, are what remains of the former Alterac City, or the Keep at Alterac, located in the Alterac Mountains. The city was the capital city of the Kingdom of Alterac until it was attacked and put under martial law by King Ternus Mantil II and the Alliance of Lordaeron for their treason and pact with the Old Horde. During the Second War, the Alterac City was ruled by Lord Aiden Perenhold. Following the battle at Kiradaro, a number of renegade human soldiers assisting the Old Horde were captured. After being interrogated at the capital city, the prisoners were revealed to be from the Kingdom of Alterac. The High Command then decreed that the nation of Alterac had committed treason against the Alliance, and Alterac City was then attacked in retaliation by the forces of the other human kingdoms. An Alterachi prison camp was also situated near Alterac City, containing captured Dalaran citizens. The kingdom was destroyed by the Alliance for their betrayal during the Second War, and most of the population abandoned the ruins of their former homes. Following the Third War, the Crushridge Ogres led by Muktol have taken up the deserted ruins, now void of human inhabitants. The former Alterachi of the Syndicate were now occupying outlying settlements such as Strahnbrad. The ruins were visited by the adventurers of the Horde and the Alliance, searching for artifacts such as the Crown of Will and the Perenhold Tiara. Wrecked meat wagons can be found near the northern ramparts at the gate, indicating that either the Scourge or the Forsaken attacked in the previous years. During the Burning Legion's third invasion, the Archmage of the Tiris Guard arrived here to take back the stolen 3-disc of Frost from Okorok Ice Touch, an ogre mage who had raided the Dalaran crater with other Crushridge ogres. After the battle for Lordaeron, a Horde group fled to the ruins of Alterac. During the Fourth War, the Horde planned to rebuild it as a defensible base of operation in Lordaeron. In response, the Alliance sent scouts to investigate the established fortification and determine the numbers of local forces. However, no offensive has been done to contest the control of the city by the troops of the Horde. The Syndicate controlled the city for a time, but the Crushridge Ogres drove them away. Now what remains of Alterac City, the ruins of Alterac, serves as the Ogre's base and camp and the largest settlement. Muktol, a ferocious and crafty warlord, rules the clan from here. The Syndicate is battling the ogres in order to retake the ruined city. There's also a nice RPG book called Dark Factions, and we'll look at that because it touches on the ruins of Alterac. Notably absent from Syndicate control is Alterac City. After it fell to the assault by Sir Uther and his paladins, people abandoned the city. The ruins now serve as a stronghold for the Crushridge Ogre clan. Although members of the Syndicate excel at thievery and murder, they are no match for the strength of the ogres. Even though the Syndicate regained much of its lands and more, Lord Perenhold will not be satisfied until he takes Alterac City from the ogres. Thus he has offered a great bounty to anyone who can reclaim his ancestral lands for him, though it is dubious if he would honor such a bargain. Finally, we'll be looking at Strahnbrad. which is a ghost town located east of Alterac and west of Chillwind Point. The town is situated in a strategic position on the northeastern foothills of the Alterac Mountains, close to the border with the Western Plaguelands. It has an abandoned town hall and blacksmith. But let's look at its history. Long ago, a fire elemental was bound to the village's forge, its old bellows springing to life when no one is watching. That sounds pretty cool. Strahnbrad was part of the Kingdom of Alterac prior to the First War. It was annexed at some point, of course, by Lordran after the Second War. Shortly before the Third War, ravaging Blackrock orcs raided Strahnbrad, capturing slaves in order to sacrifice them in the name of the Burning Legion. The settlement was almost completely defenseless. Only a handful of footmen were stationed in the town, but they were able to send a request for help before the attack started. In response, the Knights of the Silver Hand moved quickly to prevent the orcs' aggression, dispatching the legendary paladin Uther the Lightbringer and Prince Artus Menethil to the scene. Uther advanced to the orcs' encampment to try and stop the orcs from attacking, and Artus was sent to defend Strahnbrad in case Uther was too late. On his way to Strahnbrad, Artus rescued little Timmy from Knowles and killed Menk, Benedict and their band, the Bloodhill Bandits, who were notorious in the region. Artus and his footmen arrived later at Strahnbrad, but the attack had already begun. Dean, Joe, Mike and Scott and many more villagers died. Some defenders of Strahnbrad united with Artus and his men, and together they were able to rout the orcs easily. The attack was directed by the slave master of the Blackrock orcs, but Artus and his men defeated his grunts and raiders, finally killing him. And so the Alliance won the battle, but much of Strahnbrad's population was devastated by the Blackrock raid. It is not known whether Strahnbrad fell to the Scourge or not, but by the year 25 the Syndicate was already using the town as their main base of operations to recover the Alterac Mountains for themselves. The Syndicate captured Goldir and imprisoned him in one of the town's cells. They used the orc as a slave worker, forcing him to haul burdens, dig, and much more. Krust sent Horde adventurers to free him, discovering the location of Taritra's necklace in the process. Following the Cataclysm, the Forsaken expanded their influence in the area with Philip Harding, but that wasn't that much. During the Fourth War, the Forsaken Dark Rangers led by Dark Ranger Clea managed to take control over the abandoned Strahnbrad and later used the village to launch guerrilla tactics against the Alliance forces, including an Alliance army led towards Hillsbrad by Commander Ashlam Valorfis from the Western Plaguelands. And finally, for the RPG, Strahnbrad, also known as Stormbrad, which is an interesting naming convention that follows Stormgrad and so on, is a ruined but once thriving city in the Alterac Mountains which the Syndicate now holds. They are using it as their main base of operations. The Syndicate have renovated the jail, and digging teams constantly break into old cellars and sealed vaults, searching for treasures the Scourge overlooked. One day the nobles convene in this derelict town. There are also two stores in it, or there used to be two stores before the Third War, Bob's Guns and Tracy's Armory, which I find pretty nice. If you managed to reach this far, please like, comment and subscribe because it helps the channel grow. Thank you.
This is why you need to explore the Alterac Mountains, mystical landscapes, hidden dangers and untold treasures ready for discovery. Nestled deep within the heart of Azeroth lie the Alterac Mountains, a realm shrouded in mystery and adventure. Imagine towering peaks cloaked in snow and ancient ruins whispering secrets of a forgotten past. Here ferocious yetis roam the icy slopes and brave adventurers face off against the formidable Syndicate. The air is crisp, filled with the scent of pine, while the echoes of clashing swords and arcane magic resonate through the valleys. But it's not just the danger that draws you in, it's the promise of glory and the thrill of discovery. Hidden caves, lost relics and breathtaking vistas await those daring enough to brave the wilds. So gear up, summon your mount and prepare for an unforgettable journey. The Alterac Mountains are calling and your epic adventure begins now.